Hey, welcome back to Gears, where we are just starting to put together a supercar called the SLC from Superlight Cars. Now, the difference between this car and all the other kit cars and component cars that are out there is that this one is sitting on an all-aluminum semi-monocoque chassis. Now, I know some of you guys are probably going, what the heck is a monocoque, man? Well, it's basically a fancy name for a unibody, meaning that this aluminum tub is your frame. But the difference in this monocoque and the unibody in your Mustang or Camaro is that those are spot welded together, so they're gonna flex on you. That's why you gotta use subframe connectors to stiffen it all back up. This monocoque, as you can see, it's all seam welded, it's gusseted, it's stressed up. These things are mathematically designed to be the stiffest thing out there. There's a ton of engineering that goes into this. Race cars have been using these things since the 60s, but because of the engineering and the cost that goes into them, nobody offers it in a component car except Superlight.
We put this chassis, the SLC chassis, on the Australian test rig. This is a government certified test rig. The chassis was so strong that we pulled the anchors out of the floor of the building. And I think that's the first time that's happened.
Now, as you can see, there are no frame rails up here. Check it out. The suspension components bolt right to the tub utilizing steel brackets, so nothing's gonna wear or wallow out on you. And the tub itself is a 1/4 inch thick. So all the load from the suspension travels into the tub and it's dispersed. Now, some of you guys might be thinking, well, aluminum, it's kind of soft, isn't it? It's gonna crack, it's gonna bend. Not if it's done like this. It's what they make airplane wings out of. If it's good enough for a jet, it's good enough for a supercar. But there's more to this than just an aluminum monocoque. Notice the suspension components, not a single piece is off a donor vehicle. These are whittled out of aluminum right there at Superlight, and they feature all kinds of adjustments so you can dial in your caster and camber for road or track use. Rack and pinion steering, coil-over shocks, and big Brembo disc brakes round out the steering, suspension, and braking in the front. The all-aluminum construction continues in the rear of the car with a square tube frame coming off of the monocoque and forming a cradle for the engine and the rear suspension. As you can see, everything is triangulated and supported, so you have incredible strength. And just like the front, the rear suspension features billet control arms mounted in a traditional fashion, and then a very unique push rod coilover system that was designed to get the coils up out of the way to make room for whatever engine and transaxle you want to stick in this thing.
I really don't see anybody in our hand-built component car world doing anything even comparable to what we do. We don't use donor components from a wrecked car. Everything is brand new, everything is designed bespoke for our cars, which means we don't have the compromises of bump steer and suspension geometry that's not what we want it to be. We can package wheels and brakes that we need to package for the car's performance, to make them fit in the wheel wells nicely, to do everything we want them to do, to be a real car, not a facsimile of somebody else's car turned into something else.
Now, even though the SLC comes to you as a roller, it is a long way from being done. You still have to build it, which means you need to be prepared to blow this thing apart because you've got a lot of assembly and painting and plumbing and wiring and fabrication and all that stuff that you have to do when you're hand building a vehicle. But they definitely make it easy on you. Now, once you've got the suspension all torqued down to spec, you're ready to move on to some plumbing. As you can see, we have preformed brake lines and coolant tubes. So all you have to do is put them in and make them look good. This aluminum box is next, and it bolts right to the front of the tub, and it allows you to mount some pretty important stuff. Check it out. Got your radiator, you've got an air conditioning unit that'll fit in here, you got your reservoirs for your master cylinders, and all kinds of other stuff, all of which come with a kit, so it's up to you to get it in place and put it together. All right, now we come to the only steel tubing on the car, and that's this roll cage. Now notice we've got a hoop here in the front, one in the back. It's tied together with stringers here, and then those continue back in the back, tying everything together, making an incredibly strong structure. Now, as you can see, we have a very sophisticated chassis going together here. This alone is almost worth the purchase price. But the thing that you're going to notice as we continue to put this car together is, number one, how easy it is to build. Number two, how incredible it's going to be when it's done.
Now, Quick Tip. Brought to you by E3 Spark Plugs. Born to burn.
When you need to thread a steel bolt into something soft like aluminum or something thin like sheet metal, most people know that you need to use some anti-seize on the threads to keep them from galling and stripping out on you. But if you're going to be taking the bolt out a lot of times anti-seize is not enough. Fortunately, there's a simple solution. You need to go down and get one of these thread setter kits. Now this basically is a fancy rivet with threads in it. It allows you to put it right into the metal, so you have got steel threads wherever you need them, and you can take that in and out 1,000 times and never have a problem with it. If you'd like to learn more tips and make your life easier in the shop, check out the tips page on the website.